All right, let's go. Let's do it. Episode 2 of Send Better Emails. Just before this call, or just before this recording, James, you said to me it takes 100 episodes, or it takes recording 100 episodes of a podcast to get any good at it. So
that's what they say.
Yeah, if you're here in the early stages listening to episode 2, sorry, I don't know what else to say.
Have you ever listened to a podcast that has hundreds of episodes and gone back to episode number 1 that was recorded in like 2017 or whatever?
I actually thought that so I'm a hypocrite here because I'm recording a podcast, but I don't listen to a ton of them. And when I have tried to get into podcasts, I've made the mistake of thinking, oh, well, I need to go back to the beginning, like it's like a TV series or something. And so I think my impression of podcasts are all of those shit early episodes that people do before they've actually gotten good. But, I have done it before where I've gone back early. And I think I did that for Diary of a CEO, and I shouldn't have done that because...
As though like there might be recurring characters that you wouldn't know their origin stories for.
Yeah, exactly. There's a story arc that I'm not fully grasping because I've not gone back. So quiz me on deep lore of Diary of a CEO and I can tell you what happens in episode 1. But yeah, so I mean, we're here. It's episode 2. The tech, I think, is working. I pressed record. We're good. James, how are you?
Yeah, fine. I mean, we're recording this episode immediately after the last one, so nothing's really changed.
You're not supposed to reveal the secrets of the trade.
We should have changed our clothes, shouldn't we? So it looks like we did that old trick.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're the same as you were about half an hour ago. Then.
I've still got that cough.
Got the cough.
Yeah, but no. Otherwise, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good. Same as half an hour ago. Just with, I guess I'm half an hour older. I'm half an hour wiser in podcast recording, I guess, as well.
Yeah, we're only 99 and a bit episodes away. Sorry, 98 and a bit episodes away from being good.
Yeah.
And it was 99 the first episode, so...
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, if we're going to do weekly, that's 2 years.
Yeah.
Before we're any good.
Yeah, but we're going to record all 99, like, during this session.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
And if nothing else, if we're doing years worth of podcast content, we'll have a nice little time lapse of you just bit by bit going grayer and grayer as the podcast years go by.
Just still slowly recovering from my cough.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there might be like a dark storyline for you where that cough is more than just a cough or something.
Oh, what a great twist that would be.
It would be a good twist.
Like it turns into like me exploring, like going to the doctors. Maybe we record an episode of me like in the waiting room.
Yeah.
I don't know, that could be.
Yeah, it would be good for views. So if you could manifest that would be great. Anyway, no, I hope it is just a cough.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
All right, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, last episode we talked about why most business newsletters suck, and this episode we felt it would make sense to talk about how to make them not suck. If you listened to the first episode and you thought, well, actually that does sound a bit like me, this is the episode you listen to solve some of those problems and start sending out really good newsletters. So again, it is a little bit of a skimming over the surface sort of podcast, because we're going to talk in fundamental principles as opposed to here's how to write the perfect subject line. There will be episodes further down the line where we talk specifically about, what shape your buttons should be, or how long should your subject line be, or what time of the day should you be sending your newsletters, and all of that good stuff. But this episode's going to be those basic principles that we should adhere to when we sit down with a blank document in front of us and we want to write a good newsletter.
Nice. There's no better way to start writing than just to sit staring at a blank page. And, maybe one of our episodes can be how to inspire, creative writing and creative thinking. And, yeah, usually it involves going for a walk, and I hate going for walks. So I hate that. But you like looking out the window, right?
I do. That makes me sound like I'm some really like pensive, deep thinker. When the reality is that like I'll look out the window, certainly of our office, and maybe there'll be some like fight going on outside or some drunken disorderly behavior, and that might inspire some sort of newsletter idea. We're not looking out into forests and lakes here.
Yeah. Maybe that's what I should do when I'm trying to come up with my LinkedIn post. I should just go to the town centre and just be like, what's going on? What things can I see in the town centre what's it going to tell me about B2B sales
Yeah,
or B2B newsletters in our instance?
yeah, indeed.
So, okay, let's talk a little bit about what makes newsletters good then. Because we talked a little bit, or we talked for about 25 minutes about what makes them bad in the last episode. If we were to start, okay, let's start from the top. What is one thing for you that makes good newsletters so good?
Yeah, so I think the most foundational principle here is to send your audience content that they want to read, which sounds like the most obvious basic principle going, and it is, but it's amazing how infrequently that happens. And so I want to avoid being too prescriptive in terms of make sure you send at least 200 words or make sure that you include at least 3 images per newsletter, because all of these things are dependent on your audience and what they want to hear. There are some examples of newsletters that are a couple of lines long and they serve the purpose that they are intended for. They're exactly what the audience wants, and that's perfect. Some will be 10,000 words, and there will be deep dives, technical deep dives. And again, that's what the audience signed up for, and so that's what they're going to get, and that is perfect. So the first step, I think, when we think about how to send a good newsletter is to think very carefully about who is on our list, who's going to be receiving our emails, and what they want to read. And there are various considerations that we should think about when we think about our audience. We're not just thinking about the sort of content that they want to read. So in order to answer that question, we can think about, okay, what news outlets might our audience go to for information? What social media platforms are they hanging out on? What sort of content have I seen them engage with elsewhere? Those are questions we can ask, but we should also ask ourselves questions like, how much time does my recipient have to read my newsletter? How busy are they? How many other emails are they getting? What do those emails look like? So being, I suppose, empathetic towards our subscribers' needs, and also, how much availability they have in a day to read what you're sending them is a really, really good place to start. Jamie, you must get a lot of really rubbish emails into your inbox. You're a busy man. You know instinctively that your audience probably aren't going to be able to read, a 20-minute essay that you've written about the finer details of preview text. And so the newsletters that you send on behalf of the Inbox Club are like 2-3 minute reads tops.
Yeah, and that goes to say that I think we understand, or at least we think we understand, what our audience wants, right? And so in order to understand what makes a great newsletter, we first have to understand who we're writing to, and that's just what you've kind of summarized for us there. We're talking to marketing managers of small to medium businesses or business owners, and both of those people are time poor. Both of those people wear many hats and have to demonstrate, some kind of knowledge on lots of different skill sets. So appreciate the opportunity to learn, but also appreciate the opportunity to learn from experts in a short amount of time, because they only have a short amount of time available. So we established this weekly cadence for our newsletter that's very short, quick to read, and it's something that someone could take away from it instantly. So I think we've got to understand who we're sending to. We've got to understand our audience before we do anything else. And if you're a marketer, and I would say that most people listening to this podcast will probably be marketers, apart from our parents. And so they will understand the importance of making sure you know who your audience is before you assume to talk to them in a way that you think they need to be spoken to. So that's probably top of my list. In the last episode, when we were talking about newsletters that suck, you kind of summed up for us, or you painted this picture of a bad newsletter, right? And you took us from beginning to end. Let's do that again, but let's do that for a good newsletter this time. So paint that picture for us.
Sure. So before painting this picture, I've got the palettes out, the canvas is there ready to be painted. But good. I do want to quickly say that it's very easy to talk definitively about what makes a bad newsletter. It is harder to talk about what makes a good newsletter in definitive terms for the reasons that we just mentioned, because every audience is different, and a good newsletter for one demographic is going to be a bad newsletter for another demographic. The fundamental principles that I want to see. So firstly, let's talk about the from name. This from name will probably be from a person at the business. The from name might change depending on the topic of the email that's being discussed or the time of year it might be. For example, maybe in Christmas time, we add a Santa hat emoji at the end of our from name, or we say it's from James, in brackets, feeling festive, or something like that. That's a terrible example. But
are you feeling festive right now?
I'm not. No.
No.
It takes. We need to be deeper into December before I start to feel really festive.
No,
to be honest.
I'm the same. Maybe when we get deeper into December, if we're still recording podcasts at that point, which I hope we are, we might add some festive hats onto our little names at the bottom or something. I don't know.
Jamie, I don't feel like I've ever seen you feeling festive.
No, I'm one of the most infestive. That's not the right word, is it?
Infestive sounds like you've got some sort of disease.
Yeah. Unfestive. Unfestive is probably the right word.
Yeah.
I am one of those. I'm a bit of a Scrooge, to be honest.
You're actually escaping the country this year.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. So, I mean, Christmas is for the 24th to the 26th. Let's keep it in that window. For me, let's keep it there. Otherwise, it's too much for me.
If you happen to be sending an email during that time, which you probably shouldn't be, engagement's not going to be great, but no. Include a Santa hat in your from name and you'll be laughing.
Yeah.
No, that was a poor example, but I think changing the from name is a really interesting topic, one that no doubt we will discuss more. Being creative with the from name. There are some businesses that have a different from name every single time. There is a fundamental thread that means you can identify who it's from. But they tweak it in funny and creative ways, and it's awesome. It really helps with engagement. A from name that is a person, I think at the very least, a subject line that is distinctive. And again, we can talk until the cows come home about what makes a good subject line, and there are also lots of trending principles that we can look to as well. For example, if you're in Q4 of 2024. Research suggests that talking about 2025 is a good way to increase open rates. So, there are some specific things there. But of course, if everyone's doing that, suddenly it's going to be less effective. In the same way that if you're sending Santa hat emojis in your subject line, it's not necessarily going to stand out from the other senders that are including Santa hats in theirs. So, maybe if you include a palm tree in December, that's going to be a little bit more distinctive in the inbox. So, again, when we write a good subject line, we want to think about how does it look in the context of the inbox, the rest of the inbox, the other emails that this person is going to be receiving on a day-to-day basis. How can mine look different? Maybe you're sending just one word with a full stop at the end of it. Maybe yours is extra long. There's lots of talk about optimal subject line lengths. I would argue that as long as you have variety and you're standing out from others, you can have an exceptionally long subject line and it still perform well. So have a distinct subject line. Jamie, do you want to riff on that a bit?
No, not at all. I was just going to sum that up. So we want a from name that's something different. And I think that's probably where a lot of this conversation is heading in when we talk about subject line and from name and standing out in the inbox. We want to be different, right? So a from name that is from a person, right? Something that, your from name doesn't have to be like a set and forget situation either. And like James said, you can change it up. And we're playing around with the idea of having people guest write our newsletter, so we can change the from name from different people, etc. So that is very much like a live thing that you can play around with and use, and you should test. A subject line that's different, that stands out in the context of the inbox, and I think that's something that people don't often do or think about, right? Is how is this email going to look once it lands in someone's inbox? And what is my subject line that I'm writing here? Is it going to do it favors, or is it going to do the opposite? I would also, by the way, a quick tip, I would write your subject line after you've written the email, because you're already in full creative flow there. And you'll have a better idea of the message that you're trying to get across. So write your subject line last. If we open the email then, and it's a good newsletter, what does that look like?
Yeah, I would expect to see personalization here. And personalization can mean one of two things. Firstly, it can mean specific data that's being used in a personalized way. So the first name is the most common example of this. And we might see this in the subject line as well. No doubt you've received an email, probably today at some point, that says, Jamie, here's your Cyber Monday offer, or whatever it might be. So personalization is good. It works differently depending on the demographic you're emailing, but generally speaking, it's always more successful to personalize than not. But personalization can also just mean content that feels as though it's been written specifically for me. And so it might be, for example, that I'm subscribed to a newsletter that knows that I run, or co-run, should I say, because Jamie is on this podcast, an agency, and therefore the content that I'm receiving in this email is specifically for agency founders, and that's personalization that can be scaled, but it still feels like I have been thought about when the sender has written this email, and I'm keeping it as generic as that, Jamie, because like I said, it can be incredibly variable in terms of what makes a good email. But again, I want to feel as the recipient like the newsletter has put my needs and my interests before their own, before the sender's own. So I don't want to be reading an email that's talking about the business that's all we. Instead, I want to see words like you and your, and I also, I suppose this is where the meat of this podcast might end up being found. I want value as well. I want to come away from the email feeling like I've gained something. And again, that can come in different forms. I would say ordinarily, when it comes to B2B newsletters, the easiest way to give value is to teach me something that I don't currently know. Or to remind me of a principle that maybe I've forgotten about. But it can come in other ways as well. Maybe there's a special offer. Maybe the email that you've written is really funny and I feel like I've gained some entertainment, or I've gained a little 2-minute break in a sea of, boring emails that I have to sift through. So there are various ways that we can give value. I would say that everyone listening to this will have expertise that can be shared. And that is where I would start in terms of providing value to your readers, is tapping into that expertise and saying, okay, how can I help the people on my list to solve a problem that they might be facing?
Yeah, I like that. I think, to sum that up then, what we want is an email that's relevant, is personalized in a meaningful way. So not only, people might call them cheap tricks, where we're doing merge tags and we're including people's first names, etc. But it's personalized in a meaningful way where the content is relevant to me. And it's something that I know is written for me. There's nothing worse than receiving an email that isn't relevant for you at all. And what you're going to do then is unsubscribe. And that's not a bad thing for the sender, by the way, because clearly I'm not the person that should be on your email list. And then we want some value, right? We want to be able to, especially when it comes to B2B, we want to be teaching something. We want to be offering insights. We want to be offering some thought leadership. And so those are the kind of things that we might expect to see when we are opening these kind of B2B newsletters that are great. If we have a quick look at, because one thing that we didn't touch on in the last episode about what sucks for some B2B newsletters, but I think is worth talking about here at this point is sign-up forms. Because so often sign-up forms aren't doing the newsletters justice. Because, we've just spoken about something that we've spoken about these newsletters being packed with value, right? We've spoken about these newsletters being for someone very specific and being relevant for someone. We've spoken about these newsletters teaching people something or offering insights. So if we are packing all of that good stuff in, surely we can do better than sign up for the latest news when we write our sign-up form.
Yeah.
Right? And we spoke a little bit about the newsletter having a proposition in the last episode. But what do you like about a good sign-up form? Have you got examples of one that you've seen that you've liked, or what would one include that was good?
Yeah, I think the problem that a lot of sign-up forms face is that actually, if you're not running a good newsletter, it's very difficult to come up with a great CTA to join your newsletter, right? Because you're only as good as the content that you're sending. And so once you've solved the issue of ensuring that your newsletter doesn't suck, it's important that everything that points to your newsletter sings its praises, as loudly as it possibly can. And so I think for me, what makes a good sign-up form is something really easy. Ultimately what we need is someone's email address. We might also ask for extra data like a first name, a last name, perhaps a business that they work for. I would resist including too many fields here. There's a temptation to say, well, I can get their income, their business's profit in 2022. We don't want to turn what should be a relatively frictionless action into something that takes too much time for a prospective subscriber. So keep them simple. No more than one sentence to summarize why someone should sign up. And you've provided an example pretty succinctly there, Jamie. Something that tells the subscriber exactly what they're going to get. And how frequently they will get it, I think is what you want to do. So if you're sending a newsletter about email marketing, you would say something like a 2 or 3 minute read every week will send you one actionable tip that will improve your email marketing. That's pretty much ours, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think, if we were to draw on other examples here, maybe you're an accountant, right, for small, medium businesses. And you're probably talking to a business owner at that point, if you're that accountant, because you're working with small businesses. And so your newsletter might be, I'll send you an email once a week. And in that email, there'll be one actionable tip that you can use straight away to unlock more profit within your business. So it's okay, well, I want to sign up to that because, not every tip is going to be for me, but it might be, if you're sending one every week, then, half of them might resonate with me and I might be able to, unlock more profit in my business. Similarly, if you're doing business insurance or you're a law firm, for example, that's working with, these small, medium businesses, maybe it's okay, well, we'll break down one key bit of legislation, but we'll explain it like you're 5 years old. Something that's really, for me, we're thinking about the audience there. We're thinking about a business owner that has to wear many hats and understanding business legislation, if they're anything like us as business owners, is probably well over their head and they've not really thought about it that much. So, for me to get that weekly newsletter and it's explain it like I'm 5, that would be a beneficial for me thing for me to read. And so I think if we look at those two examples I've just mentioned there, those could be seen stereotypically as dry subjects or boring businesses. right? But what we're doing is then we're creating content that doesn't have to be dry or boring, because we understand the audience and why we should be, and the way that in which we should be writing to them.
Yeah, and actually, what you've touched on there is the fact that if you're struggling with this, if you're struggling with that value proposition, to think about it in terms of problems that your audience might be facing. So maybe the average business owner is blind when it comes to unlocking profit in their business, and so thinking in terms of, okay, what problems might my ideal subscriber be facing, and using your value proposition as a promise to solve that problem is sort of a hack if you want to write something. I would say that it's also worth mentioning, Jamie, why we preach this stuff. Like why is it good practice to send value? Why is it good practice to be solving these problems? Aside from just more people will engage with you, what's the ultimate benefit here when it comes to why we do this? Why businesses ought to be sending newsletters that don't suck?
The ultimate benefit, hopefully it's the same one that you're thinking of when you asked me that question. If it's not, then you can certainly add yours, and we can battle over which one is the ultimate one.
Yeah.
But I think you want to demonstrate expertise. You want to you want to build familiarity and trust, and by paying it forward, by doing this almost no agenda marketing where you're giving free value away. Is it free if you're exchanging it for your email address? That's remains to be seen, but it's not costing them anything, and it's actively improving their lives, right? And so what we want to do is we want to build this relationship with our subscribers, and that's what sending those types of newsletters does. And then all of a sudden, like I said in the last episode, once we have that ecosystem of people that know us and trust us, then when they are ready to buy, they know where to come, and it makes us really easy to refer business to if they come across someone who's ready to buy. So that's, for me, the ultimate reason why we want to be sending that kind of content out.
Yeah, you've nailed it. I mean, you've nailed it insofar as that was my thinking as well. And I think that's important to clarify, because when Jamie and I talk about these best practices, it's not because of some sort of charitable endeavor where we're just like subscribers need to be treated better. That is all true, but ultimately our priorities lie with you. They lie with the business owner sending, or the marketing manager, whoever it might be, sending these newsletters. This benefits your business. This stuff benefits your business. It is ultimately a selfish endeavor. It is not for the benefit of the subscriber, insofar as, yes, they're going to have a better experience, subscribe to our newsletter, but we only want them to have that so that we can more effectively sell to them when the time comes. And I think that is important to clarify, is that this will benefit you. Doing this stuff, sending value, building that relationship, establishing your expertise, and all of the implications that comes with when it comes to the trust that develops, the conversations that you might have off the back of these newsletters. All of this stuff ultimately serves your business in a positive way.
Yeah, it's like building newsletter karma, right? It will come back around, right? In a way. Okay, we're aligned on that. That's good. Should we test how well we're aligned? Should we? Because we like to do a hot take. I think we're going to do a hot take in every episode. Should we say our hot takes at the same time and see if they're the same?
I need a moment to. I used my hot take in the last one. That would have been ideal for this.
Oh yeah, but you have to come up with a different one. You can't repeat yourself. So if I count down from 3, let's see if we say the same thing.
Okay, all right.
We definitely won't.
This is horrible. I can't
imagine if we do. Imagine if we say the same thing. Okay, 3.
Hang on, just to clarify, one thing that.
Yeah, one very short and snappy thing. Make it like 3 or 4 words.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Send
value.
Content.
Oh,
there we go. We did.
Okay. Mine was more concise, so I win.
Yeah. Okay. Yours is the ultimate hot take. You can win that one. I don't even know if that would have come out clearly in in the recording or
That's
whatever.
a good point, actually. Yeah.
But we both said send valuable content, or you said provide value.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm so glad that worked out.
Maybe we should start a business together.
You know what? You might be onto something. Good. Yeah, I'm glad we're like value. I think that's super important. That is a word that's one of those words that we should have a swear jar for, because I feel it's going to come up so frequently, and people be banging their heads against the wall going, oh God, that bloody word again, value. But there'll be like a bingo card for this podcast, and value will be the one like right in the middle. Because we will almost certainly say it every episode. It's very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're over half an hour, believe it or not. So thanks for tuning into this one. Hopefully you found it interesting. I'm going to do that snazzy thing where I show the link again. If you're listening to this on audio, then you've missed this. But what it is basically the link to our website's come up at the bottom.
How painful that they're missing out.
I know. That's the inbox.club. There's no, spoiler alert. So yeah, thanks for listening. Catch you next time.
Cheers, guys.